evening, my local creeps, and welcome to my Australia's Most Haunted series. Tonight we're going to be kicking off my first episode, delving into the depravities that is Larundel Mental Asylum here in Melbourne, Victoria. Now, I'm sure local Melbournians will already be familiar with the horrible histories that hang within the walls of Larundel. Perhaps you've even explored its abandoned corridors at some stage or another during its 15 years of closure and abandonment. Perhaps you've even captured some paranormal experiences. Larundel Mental Asylum is absolutely terrifying. Its sheer intimidation from the front of the building, which stands out like a sore thumb from Plenty Road in Bundoora, is enough to send you running with your tail between your legs, and I'm sure it was the case even for arriving patients. It is absolutely imperative, I feel, for you guys to get a vibe of what it is like to be at Larundel at night time, especially arriving at Larundel for the first time of a night time. So you're driving up Plenty Road, which is a normal suburban road here in Melbourne. So the suburb is Bundoora, and it is quite a bushy suburb. Regular though, residential area, shops, restaurants, and there's also the La Trobe Uni out there as well. So it's quite a busy little hub. Now, you're driving along Plenty Road, everything is as a normal suburb would be. Busy cars, busy trams, people everywhere, even late at night time. And then you're driving along, you're getting close on your maps, it's telling you Larundel in 500 meters on the right. And you start looking to your right and you're like, there's just darkness. There's nothing out there at all. It's just this plot of darkness on this busy stretch of road in a suburban area. Like, there's nothing there. And then you see, very, very faint in the distance, a white building. You can barely make it out, maybe some window frames. That's the only way to distinguish that it actually is a building. And that's Larundel, just sitting right back off a busy suburban road, all creepy and dark, abandoned, waiting to eat your soul. So Larundel was purpose-built to cater for the overflow of patients at Mont Park Asylum, which is right next door to where Larundel still stands today. So 1938, this big building was erected and it has been used since for many, many different purposes, such as a military hospital, a family and children's home. It's also been utilised as its sole purpose as an asylum. So it also has housed the most notorious and criminally insane individuals that we have actually had here in Melbourne, Victoria, such as the likes of Peter Dupas. Now, if you don't know who Peter Dupas is, you need to go onto Google now and check that out. That man is seriously fucked up. He is so depraved, I can't even. Curiosity for Larundel unfortunately comes from skeletons within our family's closets. It is that one of our family members was actually admitted to Larundel as a child, a 14-year-old girl, vulnerable in a very, very toxic environment. As if it wasn't hard enough for people that were already admitted to Larundel who were of age, imagine being a child terrified and not understanding why your parents had actually admitted you. The story is that this particular family member was diagnosed with I'm not sure whether it was like a mental disease or whether it was like a disorder, but she was diagnosed with being essentially promiscuous. Now, this family member had raised attention to the fact she was being sexually assaulted and molested by a family friend who was actually a police officer. That's right, a police officer. Her parents didn't actually believe that she was being molested. Her mother accused her of stealing the attention away from her and being a tart and being promiscuous. So the only option to resolve this issue here was to lock my family member up in Larundel and give her shock treatment at 14 years old. Now, Larundel was known to use shock treatment quite regularly during the 50s. It never proved to actually be of any benefit to patients, especially when your diagnosis is that of promiscuity. I'm not sure that you can actually shock any sort of nymphomania out of somebody, even if that was true. However, this family member wasn't promiscuous. They were speaking out about the depravities against children and sexual abuse. It's not okay. And she had every right to speak out, and her parents should have protected her. Instead, they chucked her in Larundel and locked her up with a bunch of crazy people. Now, she has never been the same since after having the shock treatment, and she endures terrible, terrible night terrors all the time about that horrible place. I recall the stories of Larundel as a little girl from my family member, and it would absolutely terrify me then, as it still terrifies me now, especially after seeing Larundel in the flesh. It is everything that she ever described it as. It is intimidating, it looks dark, and it's very, very lonely. Although, are you really alone in Larundel? I don't think that we are. Larundel is a hotspot for paranormal investigators here in Melbourne and in fact all over the world. The most commonly known occurrence that people report is that of hearing a music box which apparently belonged to a young girl, and it was her very, very special possession that she had within the home. She was said to have been a child as part of the emergency accommodation from the family services at the time. That would have been during the 1940s that the families were living in Larundel as emergency housing. Apparently, the only thing that she had of any value to her was her music box, and this is why we can hear it at night time at Larundel. Now, it is said that the music box peaks at, of course, wait for it, 12 a.m. Dun, dun, dun. Why is everything always at 12 a.m? It's just like, why? Oh my God. People have actually reported seeing ghostly figures up the stairs, in the windows, and peeking over the fences. Now, I actually went and had a walk around Larundel myself quite a few years ago, and we were not able to get inside, probably more to the fact that I was terrified of getting like asbestos from the building because it was in such a dilapidated state, as it still is today. It's not a safe place to probably go and try and get into, although we will try eventually to get some filming done. But it is absolutely terrifying from the outside, especially. Looking into the building from the outside looks like you are looking into the pits of hell itself. Every shadow, every movement against the walls through those windows is something that your imagination just runs wild.